Okay, so this reading, I don't even know where to start. I feel like I've been kind of sitting on it for a while. Um, it's been brewing. It feels like, it's like a strong cup of coffee. Like it's probably been brewing a little too long. Um, and what like is coming through, like it might be bold, it might be a little bitter, there's something about it that's like pretty potent, right? I feel almost like I have to like dilute, or I might have to dilute like some of what's coming through. um And I also, it just feels like one of those readings that, like, I've been getting a lot of downloads, I've been getting a lot of, like, visuals, and, like, it's gonna take a lot for me to, like, set the stage, right? It's gonna take a lot for me to, like, have the, kind of get the setting in place. So, just be patient with me. I've been getting, these downloads, these channels, right? And so I really don't know how much of the cards that I'm going to use. I mean, if anything, they're probably just going to be confirmations for, like, what we're talking about, or if we need any further guidance. But I've been getting a lot, like I said, and I've been sitting on it. I've been letting it sit, and, yeah, so I'm just going to start. And I guess I'll pull some cards as we go and see what we got going on. So, basically, what I've been seeing in, like, spirit with my mind's eye, right, is games. I've been seeing, like, a plethora of different games. And I've been seeing, I don't know what they call that, like a game night, Olympics, where there's like tables all set up, and you go from table to table, and then you play the different game there, and then like you move on to the next, like a game marathon or something like that. I've never participated in that, but like I know it's a thing that people do, I guess. And that's kind of what I've been seeing. And so I'm seeing all these different games set up, right? And I'm seeing different, like, at each table, it's a different game. There's a different, like, goal and intention. There's a different dynamic. There's different people, right, at the different tables. And so there's something about that. There's something about that, and I think that a lot of this is going to have to do with, like, our relationships dynamics specifically, and how, like, the dynamics of relationships shift and change based on the people themselves, how many people, like, the difference between, like, a one-on-one game with someone versus like a game that has 20 people versus a game that is teams versus a game that has partners. Like there's like different games, and there's different dynamics within those games, and there's different goals within those games. And like that's what I was seeing. So there's something about that. So that was like the image that I was getting. And then I was getting deeper into detail of like people moving through like these different dynamics, table to table, playing these different games, and how the dynamic shifts, again, based on like how many people and what's the goal and who the people are. And like when you look at a game that is like for a lot of people, right? That's like up to 20 people or whatever, and it's just one of those fun, like playful, lighthearted games, right? Like that's the dynamic, that's the energy. Like I'm getting like Cards Against Humanity type of vibe where it's just like playful and funny and whatever. But then you have other games, like I was also getting like chess, right? And that's like a very, it's one-on-one, it's two people, it's intense, it's, I don't know if intimate is the right word, but like it's a one-on-one thing, and like there's more strategy, and there's more like it's just more intense, right? The whole vibe is different versus that dynamic with a group of people. And so there's something significant there. I was also seeing, like, I was seeing a bunch of different specific games. I was seeing cards. I was seeing, like, poker kind of cards. I was seeing Jenga, the game of life, which I'm probably going to reference, right? Like, I'm just seeing a bunch of different games and, like, the different energy dynamics that, like, are there. Taking a second to look at this card, and, you know, this is giving, like, you know, a one-on-one kind of game, chess or something like that, or even like a teams game where there's two different teams and they're both like battling for something, right? I'm gonna keep pulling, I guess, and see what happens. I feel like I should start here. Oh, he wanted to come out. Again, it's entirely dependent, right? Because, you know, yeah, we're talking about games that are like real and that you play, and then there's like certain goals and like missions within the game, right? But with what we're talking about in a sense of like a metaphor, or, you know, when we try to relate that to some sort of spiritual path or something to relate within our path in our life, you know, it's all dependent on, again, the dynamic of each game. I'm feeling led to ask, like, who is the opponent? Like what are you battling against? What are you fighting against? Is whatever game you're playing right now, with whoever, with whatever, like, what is it? There's like a defensiveness or something. Like, what are you fighting against? And I'm getting, like, make sure you're not fighting against the one who's, like, on your team. You know what I mean? Like, this defensiveness of... because when we walk through life, and, like, especially if you've been... if you've had experiences, sorry, I'm having a hard time like getting this out, but it feels like a lot. Especially if you've had experiences in the past, whether that's in relationship or in like on your spiritual path. You know, I can't get into all that, but like if there's something that you have been deceived by, that you felt as though you've been deceived by, that you put trust in something or someone or whatever it is, right? And that ended up betraying you. Or whatever you put this faith and trust in, like, it ended up that, like, you shouldn't have. That builds over time as, like, a fear. It builds as a fear of falling back into some sort of deception. It builds as a fear of, like, not knowing who is for you and who is against you. Again, whether that's, like, in your relationships or on a spiritual path. You know, like, belief systems and stuff like that. So, like, the question here is, like, what are you so defensive against? Who? And, like, why? Right? Like, who is your enemy in the scenario? Is it appropriate? Is it the appropriate dynamic for that person and what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, are they actually your opponent? Are you actually in a dynamic in a game where you are supposed to be in opposition with that person? Or are you just fighting against, defending yourself against a person who's actually on your team and, like, wants to see you win? Like, that's what I'm getting here. We have the trellis climber. Like, there's something speaking of, like, support, and something speaking of, we have nightlight. There's something, like, something or someone that like wants to offer light. This isn't anything that I was getting through a download. This is simply through the cards that I'm seeing, but it's very clear right now. There might be something that wants to show itself in a way of support, show itself in a way of being a light for you, and there's still this defensiveness. There's still this I'm getting like, are you trustworthy? Like, what is the intention here? Like, this fear that there's still like, there might be like a deception. And with these swords kind of all going in these different directions, like there's clear divide between two energies, right? But when it comes to the defenses on each side, okay, it's like one is very defensive in that like both of the swords are facing the opponent, right? The opponent. While the other one like isn't even battling against this force, right? They're battling something else. They're still in battle. They still have weapons, but like their weapons are not facing them. Like this. So like, and we can get more into it, but it feels like one part of this is like, see, I'm gonna have to get more into it, because who's right? You know what I mean? Like, is this a dynamic where we are in opposition to one another and we should be, like, someone has to win? Or is it a scenario where that's not even the right dynamic and that there needs to be a redirection of the defenses put in place in order to overcome the obstacle and win the game? Are you for me or against me? Kind of thing. And I get that, I feel like this could be both sides. Like, honestly, there is like a defensiveness on both sides, but there's specifically one party that is incredibly defensive and is very like needing to, like this feeling of needing to protect themselves, which makes this other party question if they need to protect themselves against that, right? Like, I feel that there's one party that's, like, not even minding, like, not even paying attention. Like, minding their own business, fighting other battles elsewhere. But then it's, like, they turn around and see that there's these weapons aimed at them. And so then they're like, oh, well, I guess I have to protect myself from you too, even though you're supposed to be helping me, like, defend myself. You know, you're supposed to be guarding this wing of the stage, and while I take care of this side, that kind of thing. If what I'm saying is, like, ringing alarm bells in your head, like if it's pointing you in your psyche to a specific person or situation, like that means it's in resonance with you. I do feel that whatever this is trustworthy, because, you know, we have here the Mother of Pentacles. I don't know how well you can see that image, but it's like a mother deer and a little baby, and like she's protecting the baby. Like I do sense that there is, whatever this light is, whatever this support is, whatever this nurturing, like, energy that I'm sensing is, like, it is trustworthy. I just think that there's, like, a defense mechanism, like, already in place. One of these parties has the ability to defend the other and protect the other with the weapons that they have, and it's like the one party is so, there's, like, a fear around the deception, a fear that, like, if I trust you, you're actually going to end up being the one that hurts me. Like, so it's like they turn on them. Like, it's a really weird situation. But I do think that, like, whatever this is specifically that we're talking about, is trustworthy. And that's actually leading me into, you know, I was getting more imagery as I was sitting with all this. This is leading me into a different part of what I was getting, and this is going to be broken up in different parts because some of these messages that I was getting, like, they're so, I mean, they're collective, they're metaphors, you know what I mean? Like, they're not super specific, but, like, some of the core messages that I was getting for, like, specifics are in opposition, you know? So, like, there's something about a real importance of using your discernment, like if what I'm saying rings something to the depths of your soul, like if it awakens something within your psyche and like you immediately can get on board with what I'm talking about, like just there's a real importance about discernment, because again, like I'm branching off in different avenues where I could be talking about one scenario and it has one guidance message, and a different scenario has a completely different dynamic and outlook and guidance, you know. So it's complicated, but just try to keep up with me if you can. There's like this suspicion here that I see, and this dynamic where it's like opposing one another, and that would be like similar to like playing chess, right? That would be like that game, that dynamic, where it's a one-on-one, two people playing this game and like trying to win, you know, one against another. And with the download I was getting alone specifically, I'm getting, and I try to dance my way around it, but I'm just gonna say it, like I was getting like love, romantic relationship type stuff, where like I think that energetically, right, because it's two people involved, like that is the game, the dynamic that like kind of plays out right, because you think two people relationship, and so immediately, like, that's the game that wants to play. But there's a flaw there, right? When you're talking about love, when you're talking about romance, when you're talking about an intimate relationship between two people, playing chess and viewing that dynamic as a game of chess can be incredibly detrimental. You're viewing the other person as your opponent. There's this sickly game of like I have to conquer and capture like and get to the other side and like steal the like take these pieces from you and hold on to them for myself. Like there's like it's weird. I know that like we're talking about the game literally, but like energetically, like there is like a capture element, there is like a, again, like taking these pieces of like you and holding them on like for myself. Like it's weird. So when you look at that dynamic, when you look at that game in the scope of love, okay, it's not quite right, right? Like that person ends up, you view them as an opponent, you view them as like there's strategy. You're always thinking 10 steps ahead of, well, if they make this move, then I have to make this move, and if I make this move first, then like they can't capture me. Like it's a weird game, right? In the scope of love, in the scope of romance. And so there's something there about changing, like spirits, like there's something that has to be shifted in the way of perceiving that game. I mean, when we really talk about it, like, especially in love, like, we shouldn't be playing games. You know what I mean? But, like, with the metaphors that I'm getting, we're talking about games, we're talking about life and, like, the dynamics and games, right? So, for this message, that game shouldn't be played. That shouldn't be the way of perceiving, like, that dynamic. Because it's like, at the end of the day, you end up creating an opponent, not a lover. You end up creating, like, you know, like, there's no partnership in the game of chess. There's no partnership even in, I want to say, any one-on-one game. Like, somebody has to be the opponent. Somebody has to be, like, you know? So there's a shift in that dynamic and the way that it's perceived. And then I was getting, and I don't know if it's a real game. I feel like I've played a game like it or similar before. I don't know what it's called. I'm sure there is a game like along these lines. But I was then like seeing a shift in a dynamic where it's not this intense like 1-2 people and then trying to like win. Like it was more a bigger dynamic, more people, right? And I was almost getting like cards, some sort of card game or something. I don't know. And this dynamic is different in a sense that it's like each player kind of for themselves. But it was in this weird way that I was seeing it where like the goal of the game is to basically like figure out who your partner is, right? Like before the game starts, aka before you came down here on Earth, okay, that partner was decided for you. In that sense, it's like, yeah, I mean, many people believe, you know, we do agree to those things. Before we come to Earth, there are certain things within our path that are set, that we, like, signed contracts, we, you know, soul contracts and stuff like that. Like, those things were destined. And so when I'm seeing this different dynamic, again, and there's more people at this table, it was destined, right? There's like a destined element, a destined aspect to it where it's like that partner was determined before the game started. But then there's like an amnesia. There's like a forgetting like of who the partner was, or like whoever's like it that round isn't in on the secret. I don't know, it's really weird. Like the whole point of the game is that whoever is it, like in order for them to win the game, they have to go through this discovery. They have to uncover this mystery of who at that table, out of all the people at this table, is their partner. Who out of all those people is the one that was destined to like be a part of this discovery, right? And like it could be anyone at that table. Everybody has their hand of cards, right? And I'm hearing like holding their cards close to their chest. There's something there about that. So everybody has their hand of cards. I think that throughout this game, like in order to figure out who your partner is, who the secret person that like you're meant to discover is like whatever cards they have in their hand are like so similar to the cards in your hand, or there's something about like something matches within the cards, okay? But there's like this element of like, it's so hard to put into words because I don't know if it's a real game. Again, it's like it's many people. I'm seeing like a round table like group of people, different connections that whoever's it has different connections with different people all around. Whoever is it needs to like have this moment of discovery of like the mystery uncovered, and I don't know if the other people know or not. I feel like they do. There's also this element of there's that one person that is the partner that has the matching cards. But then there's the other people at the table that I'm almost getting like have the ability to intentionally distract and confuse and like convince whoever is it that like they're the one. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really weird. Really weird. But then there's like one person that, again, we're talking about like love, we're talking about romance, life partner, it was giving divine counterpart type stuff, like high level spiritual connection type stuff, where like that one person, again, there's something with the cards. There's something about the cards that is like almost matches up. But there are all these other people that are there, like that's part of the game, that they're there to try to convince whoever is it that it's not right. Like, or they're there to try to convince that person that they're the one that has like the cards. But like it's this weird game, man. It's this weird game where they have that ability, and so that's just one way of perceiving this, right? But when we talk about divine counterparts, when we talk about those high level spiritual connections, and you look at it through a different scope, and we forget the game, right? Like, if you believe in a higher power, if you believe in like God, okay, for lack of a better word, or if you believe in a force, whether outside of you or within you, that wants you to have a life full of love and prosperity and happiness and all the beautiful things in life, right? Automatically, just because we live in a dualistic reality, like automatically by default, there is an oppositional force to that life and the decisions that come with it. There just is. People will call it the devil, right? I don't like to really dabble too deep into those terminologies because I feel like it really, even just looking at this dynamic through that lens, like I know that it can fuel paranoia, right? I don't really like to talk too much in ways that can kind of cause mental distortions in that way, but you know, I'm feeling led to say, you know, like if there's like a path of goodness, there's always going to be, and this isn't to make anyone fearful or paranoid, but there's always going to be an oppositional force trying to prevent you from doing the thing. And talking about love, talking about whatever. If there's something that you are destined to do for your highest and greatest good, whether that's career, whether that, like, whatever it is, there's going to be opposition. There's going to be a battle, right? Who's your real opponent? Like, who is the real opponent? Sometimes it's ourselves. Sometimes when that manifests within us, it's our own self-sabotage. It's our own unhealthy habits that keep us from, like, growing and excelling and progressing. Because that's the path that, like, destiny calls for. But there's an opposition. There's a battle. Sorry, I'm getting, like, really intense. But, like, seriously. Especially when it comes to this topic, I mean, it's important, you know. There is, again, like, at least in my scope, right, there is a destined, again, before you came here, it was written. Before you came here, there were contracts that were signed, right, in the spirit that were like, these are your soul contracts. This is what your destined, like, counterparts are. But I do just want to add there that, like, that oppositional force, again, we talked about when it's within you, but, like, when it manifests outside of you, when it comes in a way of, like, on a soul level, you know what I mean? And that's the whole game, is that you need to get in touch with your soul in order to have the discernment to know what's a part of your soul contract. If you're out here just operating entirely from ego, you're going to make choices and decisions from ego every time, and that's not going to be in alignment with the soul contract. Okay? So, an ego, I mean, I could talk about these things all day, but, you know, the enemy tries to throw you off track. The enemy wants to come through with distractions and confusion and chaos and, taking you off course and keeping you stuck in fear and paralyzing you from, there's so many different tactics that the enemy, right, can use and uses all the time. And so when we go back to that dynamic, right, when we go back to the game and sitting at that table, and then there's the one, see, I'm hesitant to even say it, but it's true. There's that one right person. There's that one person that has the matching set of cards. There's that one person that is in that scope, in that dynamic, that game that's being played out. There is one person that, you have to uncover. Hold on. Back up. There is that one person that, is a part of that mystery, that discovery that involves self-discovery and, discovering the other. It's just really strange. But along with that, there's, this amnesia that I feel. There's this forgetting. There's brief moments of remembrance, and then there's forgetting. And then when you come into contact with these other people at the table, there's, I'm almost getting, a spell. Not to, again, I don't want to talk too much about that kind of stuff, but, I am getting, it almost feels like a memory, spell to make you forget, to take you out of that awareness. And it sucks you in. There's and that's the way that the enemy works, to distract you, to waste your time, to seduction. You see, anything. And along with that, that's not to say that, again, I don't like talking in those kind of perspectives too much, because I know that it can kind of has potential to mess with the mind a bit. It's important to remember that this is all a spiritual game. It's all a spiritual thing. People that may be presenting themselves as at that table, right, may not be conscious or intentionally trying to distract you in some sort of way. It's just spirit operating through them as a part of the game. And the only way, the only answer is through using your discernment, first of all, looking at the cards in your hand. And there is something here about again, because I was talking about that matching cards, there's something about holding your cards too close to your chest, or I don't know, I'm feeling led to say that to really pay attention, use your discernment when dealing with people, just in general, whether we're talking about this or not, using discernment in knowing the authenticity of a person. Are they wearing a mask or not? Are they pretending to be something that they're not or not? Whether that's them trying to pretend to be your partner, right, in this game, and show up and present as I'm the one with the card that matches yours. But there's you'll know. You'll know if it's fake or not if you're using your discernment. You're not just believing anything and everything that other people are saying. Because again, with that dynamic and whatever game I'm seeing, I feel like whoever isn't the match to your cards, right? It's their job. It's a part of their mission to almost to throw you off, to discourage you, to confuse you and distract you and make you forget, right? So there's a need to really pay pay attention to the authenticity of the people. Are what they saying, like, is it actually coming from a genuine and trustworthy place? The one that is the match, right, won't have a problem showing you their cards. Because, you know, there's like a vulnerability or an authenticity there that is like, well, I don't have anything to hide. Like, you know, like, because they know. Like, it's weird. Versus the people that are there, like, with that kind of agenda, there's a facade. There's a facade there. And going back to this image, like, that's what I'm almost seeing. Is like, you know, being convinced that, like, this other energy, like this one person or whatever, like, is what needs to be cut off, is what needs to be, like that's what my problem is, when, like, they're the same. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that they look the same, they are the same. And if they got on the same page, if they realized that they both had two swords and directed them in the right directions, like, they'd be able to not only, like, end whatever this conflict is, but protect themselves efficiently and protect each other efficiently. So there's something there. There's something there heavily about, again, discernment and really knowing, like, what are you battling? Okay. I think we're done with that imagery and that kind of message. I don't know if there was anything else that I missed. I don't know. I feel like it's time to just move on to the next one because I'm not done yet. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Jenga because I was also getting that imagery there. Jenga. The game of Jenga. And, you know, how that dynamic is different from, you know, each game is different. But, you know, I was seeing Jenga, and I'm getting, like, that anticipation. There's, like, a moment of anxiety, of, like, anticipation. It's like it's someone's turn, and, like, it's at that point in the game, okay, where it's getting really high. Like, the tower's getting very tall, right? And, like, it's inevitable that at some point this tower's gonna fall. And nobody knows, like, who's gonna be the one to, like, be the destruction. But, like, someone has to. And so, yeah. But it's someone's, and with this message, I'm actually, like, I was getting two different kind of, I was getting split off in two different directions. So, so there's going to be two different messages here. Just use your discernment. But yeah, I'm getting that anxiety, that moment just before, like, you pull the block, you know? And you're like, oh, like, I don't know if this is gonna hold up. Like, I don't know. This might be, like, a tough one. There's something about that. And for one, I'm gonna branch off now. For one collective, it's a brutal message. But within this dynamic, within this game that is being played, like, the whole... there's an inevitability of the tower falling. Like, there's no way around it. It's the game. That's the game that is played. You play until the tower falls. There's no way to save it. There's no, you know, like, you do it till you can and then you don't. And that's it. And so, but there is that, like, anxiety of, like, well, who's it gonna be? Like, like, who's gonna be the loser that messes everything up? And then we have to start all over. Like, that's what I'm getting. But it's, like, very, nerve-wracking, you know? and I'm getting that moment of like pulling, trying to figure out which block to pull. The tower starts kind of wobbling, and you're like, and like all the choices, it's like there's no choice that's easy. Any decision I make has the potential to crumble everything to the ground, and it's like hoping that it just won't be me. Hoping that it'll just be the next person that can, when it's their turn, like something will happen. But I was really getting that, like, there's kind of this inevitability, because that's the dynamic and that's the game, as harsh as that message may be. And the thing is that you can put so much time and energy into like trying to keep something from falling, a tower from falling, and you can spend all that time and energy, and yet like I'm almost getting like natural disasters, like there are elements that are out of your control. And when a tower is destined to fall, when a tower is meant to fall, when it just simply doesn't have the firm foundation to keep it standing, and you keep trying to build up and build up and build up, like it's obvious that there's a faulty foundation, and it becomes more and more apparent the higher up you try to go. And you can try to patch it up. You can try to, like, if it starts wobbling, hold it up and push it back into place. But, like, I'm almost seeing, like, when you refuse to let the tower fall, those circumstances that are out of your control end up coming in. Like, I'm seeing, like, God's hand, like, coming down and knocking it over when you refuse to let nature take its course. Okay? I know I'm like just speaking very nonchalant. I'm not trying to downplay this. I know we're talking about a game, and like that imagery is fun to think about, but I know that when we're talking about the way that this might relate to life, okay? Yeah, it is anxiety inducing. I mean, think about your life. Think about a life that has been built, okay, for so long, with so many materials, with so, like, I'm seeing like a tall tower, but there's something about that foundation that's growing pains, healing patience, unconscious. Yeah, I'm seeing like as this tower tries to grow, like it's unstable. Like you can't go up any further. You can't build up any further because of some sort of foundation here. And so, obviously, I'm not going to try to, like, keep it lighthearted, because it's not. Nobody wants to hear that. But, like building a foundation, building a life, and getting to that point of, well, I don't think that this foundation that I built this on, like, has what I need it to in order to continue moving up. And that kind of inevitability, and karmic, grape, and golden promise. Like, obviously it's anxiety inducing to think that the next move I make, whatever move I make, might destroy this thing I've been building. It might crumble everything I've built to the ground, right? You think about Jenga, and you're basically taking out blocks, right? And then you end up putting them on top. And so you're not really getting rid of the blocks, but I'm getting with this message specifically, like, if there's something that, like, that feels like it needs to be removed from whatever you're trying to build, whatever that might mean. It's like a hesitation of like, well, if I do remove this piece, then my tower starts shaking. Like, I'm getting to the point where whatever move I make, the tower starts shaking. Nobody likes a tower moment, man. Nobody likes it. Sorry, it's a lot to sit with. Because when you think about it in the scope of like the game, like it's easy to think about, but when you really apply it to like an actual foundation, an actual structure that's being built, a life that's being built, you know, obviously nobody wants the security that comes with that structure to fall. But sometimes the tower's gotta fall. Sometimes it's just gotta happen. Sometimes, like, you need to rebuild with a new foundation that has the ability to, like, carry you to those new heights. I don't know, like, I'm feeling like, again, that anticipation, that anxiety, that, like, moment before, like, pulling out the block, not knowing, like, if it's gonna fall, and then, like, a relief, but it's almost like that relief comes regardless of, like, you feel the relief when you make it. You know, you feel the relief when you pull out the block and it stays standing and you can put it up. But even if you feel that relief for a minute, it's just until your next turn, right? That anticipation, that anxiety, the whole game, it just continues to build. Every person that plays, it's this spiral of an anxious loop that is like, who is going to be the one? Who's going to be the one? And then, like, the stakes of the situation get higher, and, like, it's more intense, and the tower's getting taller, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, we're getting even closer, and I can't believe we made it this far, and it's gonna fall at some point, and, you know, like, and so even if, like, you pass your turn, and you make it, and you're like, yay, I didn't knock over the tower, the whole game is that eventually the tower's gonna fall. It's just who's the one that, like, is responsible for it, honestly. And even that is, like, there's an element of chance, right? There's an element of strategy, but there's an element of chance and just timing and, like, everything that's come before it. And so the real relief in the game doesn't come until the tower falls, is what I'm getting. Like, that moment where not only you feel the relief, I mean, it sucks, you know, if you're the one that knocks over the tower, boo, but everybody in the dynamic, everybody playing the game ends up feeling that relief because there is a collective, like, agreement when building this rickety tower that we are going to pass off to each other and take turns of, like, who's gonna be the one, like, you know what I mean, that, like, causes destruction, like, and just pass it off, and it spirals, right? It's this anxiety-inducing game. I'm feeling anxious just thinking about it. But that, it's not till you hear, like, I'm hearing it, it's not till you hear those blocks, like, hit the table. It's not till you see it fall that everybody playing gets relief. And yeah, like, some of the people point their finger and say, boo, you're the one. Like, you suck. But, like, ultimately, like, that's the game. And then you do it again. I don't know why it's coming through like this, but interesting. So we do have the Ace of Pentacles here, which talks about stability. We have the wood, which I think Jenga's made of wooden blocks, if I'm not mistaken. We also have the Ace of Wands, which is made of wood. So there's something there about that element for sure, but I'm almost seeing this Ace of Wands as like the block, right? The weird thing about that game is that like there's one block that is the loser. Like, you know what I mean? Out of all the blocks, and yeah, there's strategy and everybody takes their turn, but like with the game and the dynamic that's played out, it's like really the blocks that are winners that make it to the next like row of the tower are the losers. Like, I don't know why I'm seeing it like that. There's one block there that's like, I'm the one that's gonna like bring this thing down, and you're all gonna watch. And then we're gonna start over. We're gonna start over with a new foundation that hopefully will be better this time, and we can get even higher, right? It's fun to think about it in the scope of the game, but again, I know that it's kind of different when you're in real life. This says it's a process, so there's a process. And then we have the karmic and the golden promise, and so with the image, the color scheme here, yeah, like with the promise, I'm getting like this is again something that's destined, like it's inevitable to happen. It's promised that there's something, a tower that is meant to fall. I do think that along with that tower falling, there might be karmic contracts being broken, karmic cycles being broken in some sort of way. There's some kind of karmic cycle that, like, again, when this tower falls, it breaks like a spell almost is what I'm getting. It collapses like illusions. It collapses karmic contracts, karmic cycles, karma. Like there's a karmic clearing that happens with that. Because it's been a false foundation. It's been a faulty foundation. It's been something that wasn't meant to last. So I know that I'm talking about it like in a very playful way. It's not to like invalidate. It's too many. It's not to invalidate anybody's fear. Like yeah. Why wouldn't you be fearful? You know, when we look again in that scope of like real life experience. But I think that with the imagery that I was getting, I think Spirit kind of wants you not take it seriously. I mean, we're talking about karma here. We're talking about stability and security and like, you know, groundedness. There is a serious element to it, and that's where this fear is coming from. But there's also this playful, like when you really zoom out, when you really like, I'm getting like, on a soul level, it's like, it's kind of humorous. Like, I'm almost getting like everybody's in on the joke. Like, everybody that you're playing this dynamic out with, on a soul level, maybe not on an ego level, knows that like this is the game that's played, and knows that that there's something, some kind of tower that's like destined to fall, and it's just this. It's making me like nauseous almost. It's making me dizzy, like that again. That spiral of like anxiety, like, and it's just passed from person to person. Like, who's the one that's gonna like, yeah. Weird. This is my forget-me-nots. There's something here about memories. And we have boundaries. In regards to this, like, karmic something or other, I'm still trying to get this clearly, but I don't know, there might be, like, some kind of karmic cycle or something that plays out in regards to like crossing boundaries, a lack of boundaries, a need to have boundaries. It's weird. We have the best of both worlds. And I think that in the same breath that like there is this tower that falls, in the same breath that there is this destruction, and you know things crumbling, like there is again I'm getting like that relief of like when the game is over and like you can build a new foundation. There's the anxiety and then there's the relief, there is the destruction, and then from that material the ability to build a new foundation that is more sturdy, and more solid, and like has the ability to like go higher. I feel like I'm just like repeating the same things. I feel like this portion I'm kind of done with, maybe. We have the Empress and I think that's the Ten of Wands. There's something that like you had hopes for that would be, because we're seeing a lot of wood here. We have the tree with the Empress, we have these logs as the steps, we have the wand, we have this wood here. I think there's something that like there were hopes for something to really like thrive. The Empress is like such a beautiful feminine like energy, like something that would have the ability to thrive and provide like something. It ended up being like, rather than something that was able to provide, it ended up being something that became obstacles, or it ended up being some sort of burden, right? It ended up, again, I'm seeing like this almost as a tower, like building up this faulty tower foundation when like you had hopes that it would be this beautiful, thriving, like glowing thing, and it ended up like not showing up as that. But I do think that in a very real sense, right? Forget the game. There's like this knowing within you. It's like there at the core. It affects your state of mind. Yeah, it's like these burdens that are somehow like affecting the stability of whatever this is. And I think that there might be like an avoidance of like seeing that clearly, an avoidance of like dealing with it. Again, that hesitation of like taking out the block, right? Like not wanting to look at it, not wanting to think about it, taking your turn, right? Not wanting to like have to look at and figure out which block is like the unstable, unfit. Like, you know, like there's an avoidance there. But it's affecting everything. It's affecting the stability of it all. Because again, it's like something that's destined to fall. It's affecting the state of mind, and I think that, I don't know, there might be like heavy emotions caught up in this too. Now I'm pretty certain that this is the final like portion of this little reading that we're doing here. Can't be totally sure yet, but just branching off of what we were just talking about with the Jenga, because I was getting this other, like it's a different dynamic. It's like a different game. I mean, it's the same game, but it's like there's something else there. Where this last message was like more about surrender, more about like embracing the inevitable of like something crumbling, a tower falling. But when we talk about this specific dynamic, there's still that anticipation, there's still that hesitation of like, again, I'm seeing like pushing on the blocks, like trying to figure out which one is like the loosest of the bunch, which one will like get you to the next round, right? But this is like a different foundation. This is a different setup. This is different. Okay? And there's a lot of anxiety here as well. Because although this tower I don't think this tower is as tall as this previous one. It's a lower tower. There's not that much height to it yet. But there's something about this specific turn, right, that's being taken. There's something about this move that's being made that is really significant in the structure of the tower, okay? Regardless of what that might mean for you. But like whatever you're dealing with in life right now, whatever decisions you're making, whatever like blocks you're trying to like build at this point, like there is not to like fuel that anxiety, but like it is important. So it makes sense that there's this anxiety there. You know, I'm getting like trying to figure out the right move to make, the right block to choose, right? I'm getting that like feeling around trying to find the loosest block that like won't disrupt the foundation, right? Not pulling one from like all the way at the bottom that will like more likely have an impact, but still trying to find one that that there's enough give, you know? And I think that like with this dynamic specifically, like this is rebuilding after a tower has already fallen. And so there's also that fear there of like this idea that it's like, I just rebuilt my foundation. I just got to this point. I can't risk losing this structure. Like it's a high stakes situation, right? Because I can't start over. Like I don't have it in me to like rebuild another foundation. Getting that even with these cards here, I think that there's been like this past tower, right, that you were building and it got to a certain point and maybe like, I don't want to say you made the wrong move, because again, like we were just talking about, like sometimes the tower falling is just inevitable. Sometimes that tower, whatever that thing we were trying to build in our lives, like it's not supposed to last. So like I'm not saying that to like be hard on yourself. I'm just saying like there is this like feeling of like, oh my gosh, I just put myself back together. Like I just like got to a point where I'm feeling stable in life or in a certain area of my life, and so whatever decision I make next, you better not mess it up. You know, and like so there's this fear, but I'm getting like that's the clock is ticking, you know, like you can't just sit and wait and not make any moves, right? The tower's not going to build itself. So there's this like really trying to make sure you're picking the right block. And with that, it's like whatever you're thinking about or dealing with right now, there might be a lot of different options and you're trying to find like the right one that like won't disrupt, again, this foundation that you're trying to build for yourself. And again, I'm getting like it's high risk, like it feels, even though like it's not a super high tower at this point, like it feels high risk because that stable foundation has just been built in some sort of way. So it's like whatever choices I make from here on out, like this is going to set up the rest of my building. You know, it's going to set up the rest of my tower. And so I don't like, I'm even with I think that there's one, seeing someone like feel around and it's like, all right, I have to do something. I'm at a point in building my life that like there's something that needs to be done in some area, right? And it's like trying to figure out which area is the right area, or if it's within a certain area, which option or decision is the right one. But there's one there, I think, or maybe a few being considered that's like, well, this feels like, you know, that feeling where it's like it's loose enough, but there's that hesitation because it's like I'm getting like anxiety, like, well, what happens if like last minute like it gets stuck and then my tower is destroyed, you know, like. And I feel like that's just a mindset, right? Like, I feel like it wouldn't matter, truly. I don't think it could be the loosest block in the tower, and I think somehow you would still find your way into that mentality where you're like, you're half and half. You're like, well, it could go really good, but look at this. Look at how the last tower left me. Like, and so there's that fear there. And this came out, like, this typically, like, comes out when it's blocking something. So, with the Four of Swords here, the Four of Swords speaks a lot about sitting and waiting and considering and waiting for the divine guidance, waiting for something to be illuminated, waiting, like, sitting and resting before moving, like, and taking action. But because this came out blocking it, I think that you've been stuck not moving in some kind of area, right? There's that, I'm feeling that fear. I'm gonna grab these. I'm feeling that fear of, like, again, like, yeah, it could go really great, but look. But look. But look at the destruction that happened, like, just before I built this foundation. How could I do anything that would risk, like, that, disrupting that? But the reality is, like, Spirit's really trying to get through to someone, like life didn't stop. Like, time is ticking, and that tower's not going to build itself. You have a vision for yourself. You have a vision, like, of the heights that you want to reach. You have something there that, like, you want to build in your life and build towards. But it's not going to build itself. And you sitting and waiting, like, it isn't going to change anything. It's not going to change. The wooden blocks are already in place. That's not moving. They're not moving. That's not going to change. Time isn't going to change the structure of the foundation. Like, it's up to you making the move. And, like, yeah, there's strategy there. Yeah, like, it makes sense for you to have this fear here. And, like, part of it is you making the right decisions. Obviously, you're not gonna just, like, blindly go in and take from the very bottom, like, your very bottom foundation piece that is going to inevitably, like, lean your tower one way. You know, that would be foolish. But you already know that. You sitting around and waiting isn't going to change that. So, it's at this point, and I feel like Spirit's saying, like, yeah, I feel like Spirit's saying there's kind of a couple different things that you're feeling around for. And you feel a few different pieces that, like, are loose, right? And you're thinking, like, yeah, this could get me across to, like, my next level. But you're not choosing any of them. Like, you're just sitting and waiting. And Spirit's saying, like, this says I'm divinely protected. And I think that whatever decision you make is divinely protected. You are wise enough, you are discerning enough to, like, be able to feel around and know what will mess with your stability and feel what will mess with your foundation. And you need to have boundaries to not let that happen, right? You need to make the right choices to not let that happen. But it's like Spirit's saying, like, any one of those three different, I don't know why 3 is coming through, I keep saying few and 3, but any one of those blocks that you just touched and felt like a lack of resistance with, any one of those you could choose. Like, and it'll be fine. And you'll be building your next level of this structure. Especially with this rainbow here, like, I do think, and with the third eye kind of thing. I think that, like, you have a vision or an idea of, or a wish or a dream of, like, what your tower looks like, okay? Like, in its fullness, where it feels complete, I want to say, where it's, like, beautiful, and it's a beautiful structure, and it's a work of art, and it's a masterpiece. But like, you're so focused on, you're either so focused on the end result and how perfect it needs to be and how every step along the way needs to be, like, very strategic, which is true to a certain extent, or you're stuck in, I want to say, the past of, like, what happened to your last tower. And, like, a fear that that will happen with this new structure you're building. And so there's something about, like, the present moment that is being really missed, okay? You're focused on the past, you're focused on the future. You're not being present enough. You're being present enough to feel, I'm getting feel out your options, but you're not taking action on them. And it's weird because, like, this last dynamic that we were looking at, like, it felt like a bunch of people playing, like, sitting around playing. This feels like a person just playing themselves, right? Like, just, I don't know, I guess people do that, right? You can play Jenga by yourself. This feels like a solo, like, journey or path, where it's less about, like, a game with others. And I think that if this person, this dynamic, this collective, like, if, because again, what I'm getting with this is, like, you just had a tower fall. And there's that fear that, like, this new tower is about to fall based off the choices that you make. But these choices are protected. This tower is protected. You are protected. There's something, like, really they want to get through to you. The shaman. See, when we talk about the shaman, you know, typically they go through a path, right? They go through a journey, they go through the dark night of the soul. There's a whole, like, intense depth, like, spiritual journey that awakens their gifts, that, like, is essential, right? They have to explore their own darkness. They have to, you know, go through their shadow and the shadow realm and the underworld and, like, you know, like, embrace those tower moments and like, learn the alchemy of healing. Like, there's a lot there. But it's also interesting, like, it's specifically said in the description about being, like, the bridge between, like, the physical world and the non-physical world. And there's something about, like, indecisiveness, like, the fear of, like, making the wrong decision. I think because, like, after a tower fell, right, you were left in the dark night of the soul without a tower, without any structure, like, completely gone. And you had to rebuild from the ground up. And a lot of that came with, like, accountability and learning lessons of, like, learning where you could have done better, okay? Where, like, your hand could have made different choices and maybe, like, prevented, like, towers from falling, okay? And I'm not going to get too into that, but, like, there's something about the path of the shaman and the way that it plays out, and, I mean, the path of anyone, really, but, like, especially when you talk about, like, a shamanic path, it's all destined. Like, it was all written. It was all destined to happen the way that it did. The tower was always destined to fall to put you into, like, the abyss, in order for you to have, like, that spiritual awakening. And so there's something about who you were in that old structure and who you are now, and the contrast and the difference, and how like you were in, they're different worlds, they're different realms, like and there's this fear, I think, of like making similar or the same mistakes that may have been made that led to destruction before, but you're not the same person you were. Like, you've undergone this shamanic path of some sort, and so like spirit wants to reassure you that like not the same. And so like that's where a lot of this fear comes, I think. But I'm getting like you sat on this for too long. Like you can't, and you have so much to offer and so much to give. Hold on. The things that almost broke me were the things that most awoke me. The awakened dead. Okay. That which is true will always be enough. The truth, honor, empress, integrity. So yeah, like I was saying, like whatever this tower was, broke you. I don't even want to say they almost broke you. They did break you. They broke your tower. They destroyed, crumbled the tower that you previously had upheld in your life down to its foundation. Like, I truly believe that, like, you know when you're playing Jenga and sometimes it's like half the tower falls? Like, this whole structure came down because there's something about, like, the things that you were building upon, like, at the core, at the very base, the very root, were faulty. I'm getting beliefs, belief systems, core beliefs, whatever, like at the root of everything were faulty. So therefore the whole structure had to be wiped out. Not just like some of it and you could rebuild from there. No, like everything had to be wiped out. And also with this truth card here, I think that like Spirit really wants to remind you that with what I just said, that that foundation at its root, at its core, was built on faulty, like, illusionary, like, lie, not truth, false, you know, at the core. So, obviously, the tower was going to fall. There's some element of, like, I think blame, like blaming the self, like, and that's not to say we shouldn't take accountability and learn from our lessons that we were meant to learn and the choices that we made. But there's something about the foundation of whatever this previous tower was that was faulty and false at its core. That it was never meant to stand. It was always destined to crumble, right? There's no amount of you making a different choice and picking a different block and like, you know, there's no amount of that would have kept this from not falling, because that bottom row at the very base of this structure wasn't right to begin with. So Spirit wants to reassure you that like you've gone through some sort of a transformation. You've gone through this shamanic journey. And from one like version of yourself to another. And you've already started to build that structure. And we're talking about beliefs here. Belief system, core beliefs, you know, that's where like the foundation of everything is. And this time it was built in truth. So therefore, everything that is built upon that has to be in resonance with truth. Otherwise, it's not in alignment, and the truth, the foundation, will not hold it. Like, it won't resonate. Do you see what I'm saying? And even if you try to build upon this tower, and you try to place a block, let's say, that isn't true, okay, isn't in alignment with the true core beliefs at the bottom, then when the tower falls, it'll just fall halfway. Do you see what I'm saying? Never again. Like, I'm feeling this very strongly, and you can probably sense it in the tone of my voice. Never again, because you've had this awakening, because you are seeing things so very clearly after this shamanic path, after, like, the tower, after the awakening, after you've cleared the illusions and the lies, okay? Never again will your foundation be wiped out from the root. Because you know your beliefs, and you know your core foundation, and you know your values, and you know your morals, and you know all the things that go in alignment with your foundation at the root. So yeah, moving forward, obviously, like, sorry, my whole tone, like, alright. This is crazy. Obviously, moving forward, the choices that we make, the blocks that we choose, we're using our discernment. The decisions that we make moving forward, of course we're going to want them to be in alignment with what's at our base, and what's at the root, and what's at the foundation. You might not get it perfect every time. You might not always, like, pick the best block and put it in the right spot. Whatever. But, and so there is this fear here, but of the possibility of, like, a tower falling, right? But Spirit, again, is, like, coming through very clearly to remind you, you're divinely protected, okay? And never again are you going to have to rebuild completely from the ground up, because you already have, like, so much of your structure, so much of your foundation is built upon truth. So when it comes time for a tower to fall, for revelation to happen, for realization and epiphany and maybe a lesson to be learned, like, it's not going to reach the core because you've cleared out those illusions. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, even if, again, part of the tower has to fall and you have to, like, you know, halfway up rebuild, like, it won't be like last time, okay? It just won't. You know, we talked about that foundation, that bottom layer, that bottom row. And we talked about beliefs, and we talk about all that, right? And that's not just to say, like, spiritual beliefs. Like, we have core beliefs about reality, about, like, it's so in-depth. But I'm almost getting, like, such a big part of that foundation is not just, like, your beliefs, but knowing, like, who you are. Like, knowing yourself. And knowing, like, the truth of who you are. And again, this past tower that you were trying to build, you didn't know yourself. You didn't, and if you did, it was a lie. If you did, it was a false version of you that was just, like, a persona. It wasn't your true, authentic self, okay? Now things are different. I just feel like Spirit, like, shaking, like, grabbing your shoulders and, like, shaking you. Like, wake up. Like, it does matter. The choices you make do matter, but there's just, like, a need to not get paralyzed by, like, the fear of something. Let's pull another one of these. I am forgiving. I let go of any resentments. And I feel like, with what we were talking about, I feel like some of that is resentment towards yourself. Is, like, the lack of the ability to forgive yourself. You know, with what we were talking about, like over evaluating, like over analyzing, this past tower and like how it fell, and how can I like get better understanding to make sure that my tower never falls again, like, but which is fine to a certain extent, but not in excess, because there's so many elements to that past tower that were out of your control, because again, it was never supposed to stand. It was never supposed to last. Like, for reasons outside of your control. Not because you like took the wrong block and like put it in the wrong place. It was all designed for you to go through this and have this awakening and step into this role. Like, that's what it all was for you to discover truth, for you to find yourself. Like, that was the whole thing. And now that you have it, you gotta like continue to build. And with that, like, you may know that, and you may even be resentful towards like God, towards the divine. Like, how could they let me get so far along that tower just for it to fall? And again, it was all for your evolution, it was all for your growth, it was all for self-discovery, and for you to strengthen getting that relationship with yourself, but also your relationship to spirit. So it really, like, I'm getting the blessing and the curse kind of thing. Like, yeah, there's darkness here, there's like pain, there's this and that, but there's gems, there's something so valuable in the path and the journey that has been had, right? And now you get to go build a new one with more wisdom. And while you're knowing yourself.